No.
Yeah. So, you are not from the University of Düsseldorf, so you are
Max Planck Institute.
from Max Planck Institute, and what did you do before you started your PhD? What was your...
I was in Augsburg University in south of Germany, and I did my master's in material science.
Ah, okay. Medical science? No. Material science. So you are one of those material science guys. And you are from Augsburg?
No.
You live there now?
I came from Pakistan.
That's good. But now you're here in
Yes.
Düsseldorf for
Yes.
how long?
Maybe more than 2 years.
That's good. And you already did your PhD? Or you're at your PhD?
I'm at my PhD.
Your PhD. And now you will talk to us about hydrogen.
Okay.
So you've got the stage.
Thank you so much.
You should be there. Yeah.
Greetings, fellow human beings. Hydrogen. You could have heard in the news that Bundeskanzler Scholz is going to Canada to buy some hydrogen. Politics speaks about hydrogen. Energy crisis, hydrogen. Pollution, solution, hydrogen. So hydrogen has got so much attraction in these days that it's like favorite food and favorite drink of people. So it's like Canada asking Bundeskanzler about his favorite drink, what do you like to drink? And Bundeskanzler saying, ich nehme noch so eins bitte. He wants to drink hydrogen. So it has created so much curiosity because of the application. We will see it. We will begin with how hydrogen was discovered. The story of hydrogen started with the air. Air was discovered by a Greek. They find out there is something called air. And then the Greek philosopher found that the good earth is composed of fire, air, water and earth. And then people were curious, but there is something more in the air. Air is not just like air, but there are some more things in the air. Then they find out. Not just air, but love is also in the air in addition to nitrogen, oxygen. But my dear friend, not just love, there are diseases also in the air. In the past, it was like, the theory was like, how does the germ spread? How does people get diseases? It was called air miasmatic theory. People thought that aerosol of a region is contaminated and bad, and people get disease and disease spread like that. And this theory was abandoned, and people were so fashionable. I was amazed that they wear such beautiful masks in this old age also. And then come the Robert Koch Institute. You heard of Robert Koch. I thought he was a cook. And I discovered then that he was a scientist actually. And then he was the scientist who gave the germ theory, that the disease is caused by germs. So there are some species. And then there are other theories also. One of them is strain theory. It says that the environment has to be clean. And hydrogen is something that is producing no emission, and it can produce electricity. You will see this later. So the story of hydrogen started as human beings were able to store gases in tanks, in like cylinders. And then they were so happy they started making parties. So they made science parties and they said, hey, come, I can make hydrogen, come, or I can make different gases. I can show you. And then they made science parties by making gases, and then they also published papers about different kind of airs. Human beings do not know that there are some constituent in the air, but they just started calling it like factitious air. What does this mean? It means like artificial, non-natural air or synthetic. This term was introduced by Robert Boyle, and but hydrogen was discovered much earlier than that. hydrogen was discovered in the year 1520, and then they did not know what this gas is. They just realized that they can produce hydrogen by taking acid and metals, and then they put it in acids, then some gas is coming out, and this gas is hydrogen. So they started calling it metal acid reaction gas. Then people discovered that this gas is flammable also. So then they started calling it inflammable gas. And then finally people find when this hydrogen is burned with oxygen, it produces water. So it is water forming gas. So from where this name is also given. Hydra means water, so water forming gas. So now people are always curious to fly up in the sky. So this was the world's first flying balloon was discovered also with hydrogen. So hydrogen is lighter than air, so it can fly up. So people discovered this in 1783. They discovered that the hydrogen can fly, but nowadays children play with balloons, but at that time people were so afraid of it, they attacked it like some ghost or something, and they just attacked it, and the farmers do not know that it's like flying balloon. But then the technology developed, and people invented the Great Zeppelin. It was a marvelous invention. And people could travel across continents, not just within cities, but they could go from Europe to America with this Great Zeppelin. But then accident happened. Then there was Hindenburg disaster. Then hydrogen is, because it is flammable, it got fire, and then it was burned, and the media started, oh, the humanity. But the people also started saying bad about hydrogen. Is hydrogen bad? I don't think so. The engineering, design, and protection measures have to be improved. They are even today, the gasoline is also flammable, and methane gas. So, like, protection measures have to be improved. Now hydrogen has tinder also. It's a match, really. So hydrogen tinder is called tinder box. It's a match. It's a matchstick. So Tinder, if you Google, I know many people use Google and they just Google Tinder and then they say it's a dating app. But if you see dictionaries, then it's saying it's not a dating app, but it's like something flammable that can be used for lighting a fire. So it was very difficult in the past that people can light up a fire. They need stones to hit them to produce fire. And with hydrogen, the world's first lighter was also discovered by Dubinier. In the year 1820, over 1 billion of its copies were sold, and Dubinier called it hydrogen tinder box. And you know this word, Wasserstoff ist Berührung. I am proud that I know some German word which many Germans also don't know. Because I've been asked by many of my friends, what's your PhD about? I say Wasserstoff ist Berührung. What is this? So this is the word that I know and Germans even don't know. So hydrogen is not just Tinder, match, it's a match, Canada and Germany coming together for hydrogen project. Hydrogen also breaks heart. How does it do that? Well, metals are made up of atom structure, and hydrogen is it's the most smallest element of the universe. Hydrogen is the most smallest element, and it is so small that it can go through the space in the metal. You can think of like Tom and Jerry. Jerry is running and Tom is following him, and Jerry can go through the hole in the wall, but Tom cannot, and so hydrogen can go in, and what does it do when it goes into the material? It makes it kaput. So hydrogen breaks. So the material structures breaks or get weaker with hydrogen. So what can we do to protect it? Well, there are corona measures. So we can use corona measures, we can protect it. Should we put masks on the metal? Yes, well, scientists propose that we can put coatings on the metals, maybe to protect hydrogen embrittlement. If you want to go in holidays, for in Corona crisis time, you wanted to go from Germany to Mallorca, for example. So in Corona crisis time, they will say you need Corona test, then you can go. So similarly for material science, there are some standard tests. So the material should qualify this test in order to be commercialized. So we have also some tests for against hydrogen embitterment. If material qualify these tests, then they can be commercialized for industrial purposes. And now colors of hydrogen. I've often heard green hydrogen. And sometimes I've also heard like gray hydrogen or blue hydrogen. Is hydrogen like a chameleon? Does it change its color? But in school I have heard that hydrogen is colorless. It has no color. But why do then people associate color with hydrogen? Well, hydrogen is colorless, but its production is very colorful. So the color is given to hydrogen by the way it is produced. So if hydrogen is produced using methane, then it's called gray hydrogen. And it produces a lot of pollution, and it is unfortunately the highest source of hydrogen production. And if it is produced with fossil fuel, then it is called blue hydrogen. And if it is produced with water electrolysis using renewable sources, then it is called green hydrogen. And that's the best hydrogen the world needs. Now what can we do with hydrogen? We can do a lot of things with hydrogen. We can power up cities, and we can produce a lot of electricity with hydrogen using a device called fuel cell. And we can also use this fuel cell in cars. Nowadays there is a lot of debate between electric cars and hydrogen fuel cell cars. And this guy is saying that hydrogen is mind-bogglingly stupid. Well, to some extent he is right, because it is practical to use small electric cars instead of hydrogen cars, because it is very energy inefficient that hydrogen cars take a lot of time to first store hydrogen, then distribute it. But if you think of big scale, hydrogen is the lightest element of the universe. It's the lightest, nothing is lighter than hydrogen. So if you think of big, you need tons of battery to power big cars, which is not energy efficient anymore. So for big cars or big structures like aeroplanes and or big ships, you need hydrogen. So here you can ask this guy to shut his mouth, because for big structures you need hydrogen, and it is like advantages. And also for pollution, you can reduce pollution by using hydrogen for steel production, because steel production is causing a lot of pollution in the world, and you can reduce it. So hydrogen is so usable, that is why Bundeskanzler said, "Ich nehme noch so eins, bitte." Thank you so much.